I am just so excited that I have Nicole Cowley joining me today. Nicole, how are you?
I am great, and I'm truly honored to be here today. I mean, really honored. I love having these conversations, and I've been a huge podcast fan since for many, 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 many years, and I believe so much in the power of them and what they can do for people. And so I'm very grateful for you, Emily, for going out in your mission to spread these amazing messages. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for being empowered by authenticity. And isn't it fun to see like where podcasts started and how it's evolving? Like even adding in the video aspect is just incredible to watch.
Yes, I love the video aspect actually because
Yeah.
I will find myself going back and forth between the videos because you can hear the voices, but lots of
Yes.
times I wanna see their faces and
Yes.
just connect that way, and isn't it it is amazing. It's like it's a beautiful thing, this technology. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
It's just so fun to see how it's evolved,
Yeah.
and being on the creator we were talking about my son and how fantastic he is. He was like,
Yes.
"Thank God I have him," because Apple sent something, and I'm like, "Whoa, what does this mean, Ken? You gotta step in here, mom's not going through." And I'm in tech, but I'm like, "What does this mean from a podcast perspective?"
Yeah, no, I agree. I was on another podcast the other day, and they were talking about how technology is going so fast right now. Like things are changing so quickly with AI and the
Yeah.
things that we can do. And so even when you're really like tech savvy, it's like you're trying to catch up every day because it is flying like that.
Yeah, I know every day you wake up and you're like, "Okay, what's changed today?"
So true. So
Especially when
true.
you sit down and your computer's updated overnight, it's rebooted, and you're like, "Wait a minute, where'd everything go to?"
Yeah, so true. So true.
Well, how would you like to do a quick introduction about yourself? Tell everyone who you are.
Sure. So my name is Nicole Cowley, and I am from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I am a mom to two awesome kiddos. I earlier in my life, I was the vice president of our family business, which was a chain of children's wear stores in Canada, and I love that. And it was a beautiful growing experience because it was me working with my dad and actually my grandfather at one point. And so that was I was very, very privileged, I believe, to be able to do that. Very lucky to have that opportunity. And then at one point I decided to step away and be at home to raise my children. And at that point, I would say that my life from the outside looked really quite great. I had a home, I had a family, I had these
Yeah.
children. All of that was wonderful. But behind all four walls, really, my world was crumbling. And not many people knew that at the time. And at the same time, my father was passing away. He was dying. And so I had a lot of things happening, and my marriage was
Yeah.
basically ended almost overnight. And from that experience, it really opened me up to what I do today, where I help women really deeply reconnect with who they are, because I was really, really lost at that time. And now it's my honor to walk with women who are really wanting to step into who they are and what they can do. And so it led me to here today.
That's amazing, and I know we'll talk about the work that you're doing to help support women, which
Sure.
is needed. It's just so needed. Women feel all of the stress and the burden
Mm.
and, all of that good stuff that we'll talk about. As we get started, though, a little bit of an icebreaker. So
Okay.
we love food. So food is a big thing here at the podcast and in the Carlson household. Just gonna put that out there.
Mhm.
Um, do you have a favorite food you look to every spring? Like something that only comes out and you're ready for it in the spring?
Yeah, well, the kids and I talk about this all the time. So living here, I think, in Canada, the produce is not like amazing in the winter. And so what I don't think there's one specific one, but I love farmers markets. I love like the fresh tomatoes, the cucumbers, the peppers, the like, and all the fruit. It's amazing. And so I feel like that's when spring is like when everything comes alive, and that's when I feel like things here do too. And so I can't wait for all of those delicious foods that we get to eat.
I know I'm the same way. Like, I absolutely love winter. Like, it's snowing out right now, and I am so
Ah.
happy about it, but I can't wait for strawberry season to hit in May. It's like
Mm,
it's
mhm.
yeah, and farmers markets and all the fresh produce.
Yeah.
So because 'cause we're near Buffalo, so kind of that same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Winter season is like, oh, if I get one more terrible cantaloupe.
No, it's so true. Even we were saying the tomatoes the other day, we're like, "These
Yeah.
tomatoes are, like, rock hard." Like, they're just not as good, so
I'm with you. All right. Well, thank you. We just love to get to know people. We, like I said, food is such a great connector. People come together
Yeah.
around it and talk, and just it's just an amazing way to connect with others. So, thank you for doing that.
Thank you for asking that question.
Sure. All right. So let's talk about the work that you're doing through Next Step with Nicole Renee. So I know you're supporting women, but tell me a little bit about the work that you're doing day to day to help in your practice.
Yeah. So the work that I do, a lot of people would call my title often is identity and internal wealth mentor for women. And what that really means is that many women, many of the amazing women I work with are highly capable, have done a lot in their life, high achievers often, and have worked really hard to create a beautiful life on the outside, the job and the family and the kids. But inside, they are often dealing with a lot of self doubt, questioning themselves, perfectionism, things that people don't even realize that they're dealing with, and it's often because many women have their whole life been working really hard to make sure everybody else is great, everybody's doing well, doing the right thing, making sure that they're getting the right job, doing the right thing for their kids, right? All the things for the outside, and never have really stepped in to look at their insides, their stories of what they've carried for a long time. And so I really help them build internal wealth. I help them build the knowing that they have of who they are, what they would love, what they're capable of, and really recognizing the stories that they've held in their minds for a long time that do not necessarily serve them.
Yeah.
Without their awareness, they're often subconscious, right? But they know what's really interesting is that they know that, they know their life on the outside may seem really great, but they have this guilt about not feeling fully fulfilled on the inside. Like, why can I not be? But it's often because we haven't done this work. We haven't done the internal wealth. We have a lot of the external, but not necessarily the internal.
Yeah. And who has time?
Mm,
I mean,
yeah.
especially and I going through your 20s, you're just trying to
Mhm.
figure out how what the next steps are gonna be, and, I think even that who has time starts with what we force our kids to do at 17 and 18, which is decide what you're gonna go do and go to college and spend a lot of money and make a decision
So
right now.
true,
Yeah.
so true, so true. I think you're right. The time thing, right, is that I do believe that also we probably were never, and I was never taught this in school, is that introspection, like going in and asking ourselves the
Yeah,
questions like, what is it that I would love? What is it
yeah,
that I value? What would I want? And it comes so naturally that way because when we're really young, we are always looking to adults, to people to help us know whether we're doing it right. We ask the questions, did I do this right? Am I on the right track? Am I,
yep,
but very rarely were we asked, well, do you believe you're on the right track? Is this what you would really love? What is it that you value? And so without actually stopping to ask those really important questions, which I had never really asked myself those
yeah.
questions, I lived life pretty much on autopilot and just did what I thought was right. So I lived very unconsciously, if I could put it that way, versus consciously.
Yeah. I think a lot of I think it's actually great to have conversations like this and expose our younger generation to the conversation so that they know it's okay to take that minute to dig deep, whether that's from a career perspective, a school perspective,
Yeah.
just being, I mean,
Yeah.
we're all going at such a high velocity from the moment we step down,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
awarding people the time for that just self-reflection is just so important.
So important. And I think, you know, that's why many times we can feel really lost later in life because we've been seeking everything outside of us for
Yeah.
our validation, for our, you know, am I doing this well? Am I, you know, the rewards I'm getting for doing all the things, but we're not looking inside to see, is this what I would love? And that's what really takes our self-trust away, is because we're not really being able to validate us, what it is we would want. But we're very
Mhm.
good at making sure that others think we're doing a great job. And we're good at
Yeah.
that. We're good at those things.
Yeah. One thing that when you just popped into my mind, there are so many people right now that are in their 50s that are
Mm.
impacted by job loss, by divorce, by something that's happening, and they haven't taken that time for self-reflection to know what that next chapter is gonna be, and for some people, that next chapter might be going out on my own or doing something like that. Do you work with women in that stage who maybe have experienced divorce, job loss, something like that, and help them understand what that next step might look like?
Oh, absolutely. I work with so many women, and you know, I really work with women who are at a point in their life where they really want to be doing something that's impactful. They want to have
Mhm.
purpose. They want to feel connected again. They want to do those things, and I absolutely do work with women in that place because it's such, like, especially like when you're in your 50s, right? That you have this timeline in your mind of like, how much time do I have and what am I going to do? And you know, sometimes we get into a lot of fear at this point
Mhm.
too. And so we start to be deeply reflective of what it is we would love in our life. And so I do really help people start to look at their patterns or habits that they've had over the years, like what has led them to where they are today, right? What are the stories, the patterns, the habits, but also from that place, what would you love? What would it be? And so many women, I have noticed that even when I ask what they would want, they don't know because they haven't taken the time to do that. So the question
Yeah.
becomes almost really hard for them. Like, oh, I should know. I should know what I want. But instead, we often go back and we talk about what would you love to feel? What would you
Mhm.
love to feel? Because we all can go there. We can go to that place. Like, I want to feel
Yeah.
peace, or I want to feel more freedom, or I want to feel more confident, or I want to feel more love in my life. And if that is what I want to feel, then I get to go back and look at the things I'm doing in my life. And are they creating peace? Are they creating freedom? Are they creating love? Are they creating health? Whatever it is, because if we know how we want to feel, then we can start to reflect on how we have been living and what we've been doing and the thoughts that we have had that are leading us toward the life we are currently living.
Interesting. So when you go through this with somebody, what like how do you approach it? I'm really curious about how, someone comes and they're not quite sure. What's that look like when they work
Yeah.
with you? Very curious
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, no. So I have a program called Unleash Your Inner Diamond, and
Okay.
it's a 12-week program. And in this program, we work through different stages every single week. And the first stage we look at is a deep dive into you. So I use, and they're like subconscious tracks that help relax your mind so that you can actually take a look at your life without blame, without shame, but just from a loving place of like, oh, I realize that I've been doing this for a long time, or, oh, I realize this is what I've been doing and this is my results. And so, not from a place of like, I didn't do enough. It's from a
Right.
place often that we celebrate it too. We celebrate all the things you have done because many times we forget that. And then
Mhm.
we look at all the things that maybe haven't been serving you. And then from there, we start to watch our thoughts every day. We start to watch our actions. We start to have a diary of how we show up every day so we can start to become really deeply aware, because
Yeah.
that's where it always starts, right? And
Yeah.
then from there we start to build a vision. And what I believe about a vision and why a vision is so important is our mind will default to our old way of being because the mind loves comfort. The mind loves us to be comfortable, and comfortable and familiar means safe. And so every morning, if we don't have a vision of where we want to go, we will go back to our old stories. We will go back to the old way of doing things because the mind's like, let's keep doing that. We
Mhm.
know you're safe there. Let's do that. So we need a vision that excites us, that gets us going, like a little bit of a roadmap in front of us.
Yeah.
Because without a roadmap, we're living very unconsciously, right? We're just living through the patterns of what our mind would love and what we've done before. And then we wonder why our lives are not changing, even though we want them to change. And
Yeah.
we create the vision, we create a why. Then what I do often with my clients is change can be challenging. Many of us are like, change is not easy, right? We're like,
Right.
we don't love change. We don't like the
Yes.
uncomfortable part
Yes.
of it. And then we're like, why can't I change? We start the
Yeah.
change and then we sabotage ourselves, right?
'Cause it
And
hurts.
so
Change hurts.
yes, change is not easy, right? It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And as humans, we don't love to be uncomfortable. But what we know is that in order to have a different life, we have to do things differently. We have to change the way we've been thinking or doing. And so what I build out for all my clients is a personalized hypnosis or like visualization. So sometimes I don't always use the word hypnosis because some people get very scared of what that means.
Yeah.
But really what it is I build a program out for people that they listen to daily of the life that they would love to live so that they can see
Oh.
it, they can feel it, they can live it in their mind first before they're even practicing it out in the real world, right? So rehearsing, seeing the feeling, feeling safe in it. And then from there, what's really amazing about these tracks is we listen usually to the first one for 21 days. But what's really amazing about it is that you start to go out into your real life and you hear this, like you can start to catch yourself in the story. Like I used to always complain about this, or I would, you know, get scared to speak to somebody in public, and then all of a sudden you start speaking in public, or you start saying the thing that you would rather say, and you catch yourself in it and you're like, what? Wow. Because now
Yeah.
I've rehearsed it in a safe place first, then I started to practice it, and practicing in real life then helps us start to believe the things we really want to believe. So we will have affirmations in there that we start to hear that are 100% resonant with us, because affirmations, if they're not, often don't work. So we need ones that make us feel good, that make us feel relaxed, that the mind can actually accept. And then we start doing actions, and our actions reaffirm our belief. So for example, if we wanted to have a really healthy life, right? We were like, I want to live a healthier life. And we sit on a couch and we listen to the hypnosis and everything, but we don't take the action. We don't start walking every day, or we don't start,
Yeah.
taking that 10-minute, I don't know, whatever exercise program you want to do. If we don't do that, it stays up here. So we need the implementation, right? And once we start walking, the beliefs of I'm living a healthy life is like, yes, we are. Yes, we are. And it becomes our identity. And when it becomes our identity, change isn't hard anymore, because
Mhm.
identity is not necessarily the roles and the things that you've played, like wife, mother, business owner. Identity is actually what you're the most comfortable being. It's who you're the most comfortable being. And so when we start rehearsing it over and over again in our mind and in our body, it becomes our identity. And when it becomes our identity, it's easy to do. So change becomes easier through this process. And it's been the fastest way I've been able to help people really get out of that stuck position of like where they're really, really scared to do certain things, to like huge ahas, huge like movements in their life where they're like, this is actually who I am,
Yeah.
who I can be.
Oh my gosh. I like, so I think the differentiator here is that you're truly looking at the whole. You understand that it's not just a coaching. A lot of times people go to coaches and they tell them, okay, this is what you can achieve, but you're actually helping to guide people through the change personally that you need to make to get there. I think a lot of times, whether it's fitness or business, when you hire a coach, they can tell you, sure, take these 5 steps, but taking that first one's hard, like
Super hard,
challenging yourself. So
super
I think
hard.
to hear it and to feel it from many different avenues and perspectives as you're trying to evolve yourself or your business is such a unique way to approach this. That's so cool.
Oh, well, thank you, Emily. Like this has been like part of me, like what
That's
I
so
needed to do,
cool.
right? To really
Yeah,
start over. Like I had to figure this all out. And
yeah,
identity has really been the key to being able to do that. Like identity for me, like creating the identity, but not just creating the identity, embodying the
yeah,
identity. Then, going through the motions, because Yeah, we can get great strategies and beautiful things out there, and that's not that those strategies don't matter, they absolutely do,
Yeah.
but you need to be the type of person who can go and take on those strategies. You gotta be the type of person who can take the first step,
Yeah.
and those can be scary for sure, and so we need to practice. We need to practice our life that we would really love, and when we practice it, I've been a dancer my whole life, so I often relate it back to that, but when you practice over and over, when you first see a dance number, you can be like, "Wow, that looks amazing." But when you try to go do it the first time, it could be so messy and so horrible. And you're like, "I thought I'd be able to do this and I can't." But many, many times in the dance studio, coming and practicing, you all of a sudden are that person. You're the person who can dance that dance. You're the one who can do it.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes is this little maneuver of real transformation.
Yeah.
And that's what's so important to me is when people come to me, share their life, their stories, their dreams, I want to make it happen for them, not just to have the aha and I
Mhm.
get it, but I want you to live it. And
Yeah.
that's what I help them do.
Yeah, and I think so, y and I think sometimes you get so overwhelmed when you're in that position that you don't stop to think if it's just 10 minutes, like, 10 minutes is not you talk yourself out of it, right? It's only 10
Mhm.
minutes. That's not gonna help me get healthy. I'm
Mm.
not gonna do it anyways, or I'm
Mhm.
not gonna spend 10 minutes trying to figure out how to fix WordPress. Wink, wink, producer
Yeah.
Ken, if you're listening. Because, that's for me because 'cause I'm like, "Ah," but
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
but, it's like, what does 10 minutes mean? But to your point, if you do that every single day, 10 becomes 20, 20 becomes 30, and then ultimately in a certain time frame, you have suddenly achieved a goal that you were seeking.
100%. And I think, behind that is that we need a vision. So you need something that excites you because doing things that scare us are challenging, obviously. And if you're not excited about the end result, like you're not excited about what it is, that can be like, I'm just not going to put the effort in. So you
Yeah,
want to have a vision that really gets you excited and you want a why. You want a deep why. So I help people create very deep whys. I have my why that sits right beside my computer every day so that when I'm really scared, I can look at it as a picture of the kids and I. But it's like it reminds me every day why I'm doing what I'm
yeah,
doing. And then, like you said, that practice within a safe container, right? When you have somebody walking beside you, that you're not doing this completely alone. Because if we're doing things
yep.
completely alone, often our minds will be like, nope, I'm not doing this. I can't. But when you have somebody here kind of walking shoulder to shoulder with you saying, I've got you,
Yeah.
then all of that together creates transformation. It's such a beautiful process and it's not meant to do just by yourself. You're meant to like kind of have the people around you to surround you to do this too.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Mhm.
that and that's and I think the difference too is sometimes you need somebody who's not always your cheerleader, right? Like your family's going to be your cheerleader, your best friend is going to be like, I got you. Sure, let's go do whatever it is this thing that you want. But having somebody who says, "Are you sure?" And
Yeah,
maybe that's not the best idea or challenges the approach and I'm sure you probably do that as part of the process like when
for
somebody
sure.
starts you know that's so important and as you're trying to really reinvent yourself or go after your dreams and aspiration to be able to be challenged as part of the process.
Yeah, and the challenge is really good because what I usually challenge people is in their thinking. Because our challenge is usually often a thought. It's the thoughts that we've put together that are creating so our thoughts are always creating an emotion in us and that emotion is going to determine whether we go forward or not.
Yeah.
And the thought so if the thoughts are there and we're like not doing something, we go back and find out why. Like, what are you thinking on a regular basis? And we start
Yeah.
to question the thoughts that we've had for a really long time. And
Mhm.
once we question those thoughts, we're like, oh, I get it. I get why I'm scared to do this. I remember the time when I put my hand up and spoke in front of everybody and everybody went silent. No wonder I don't want to speak again. Like there's these things and
Yeah.
we don't always know they're subconscious. And so I really help them find out what is underneath the layer that's not allowing me to do the thing I truly want to do so that I'm not living my life with regrets. Like I'm
Yeah.
actually being able to do it.
Yeah. I love that. And I just I just think it's so like I said, I can imagine everything is just such a positive experience when somebody's working with you. I can feel it. Like I can feel your passion, um, and just that desire to help, which is I love that.
Well, I thank you. You know, my heart is there for sure. I that is like it's very, very important because I know where I have been and how my life kind
Yes,
of, you know, the things that I had happen in my
yes,
world. And I know that life isn't always easy. And so I really want to help people move through it. And when they work with me, it's not always easy because we are doing things that are challenging. But what I want them to always know is that they are not alone in this process and what they are wanting is 100% possible. We just have to work through the method to get there. And that's what I help them do. And through my diamond methodology, we can get you all the way through. Like, this is how we get the transformation in the end.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's so great. And you actually have a book out as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities.
Yeah.
Um, I love the title.
Yeah.
So tell
Yeah.
me about it.
Yeah, that was really exciting. You know, it's a collaboration book that I'm in, and my chapter was more about the journey of where I was and where I am today, and it kind of takes you through the ways I had to navigate and what happened, and
Mhm.
one part of that story that I love to share. Was so when I had to start over, and I literally did not have an income. I didn't have like I had been a stay-at-home mom, so all of a sudden I was like, I have to start creating financial security in our family. And now I have a house to take care of, kids to take care of, the whole thing, the whole thing. And I was like, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
And I actually started at over, so this would have been over 10, 11 years ago with a direct marketing company. And it was a way for me to still be at home with the kids. They'd always had me.
Yeah.
So I was like, how can I be with them? So there was a way for me to be with them and then still work. And I remember like it was one night, it was the very first night that the kids were not in my house. And it was so darn quiet. I remember the house was like darker and there was no noise, like nobody fighting, nobody, like none of the like wrappers unraveling or anything, like of their snacks, or it was just so darn quiet. And I was more alone, I think, than I'd ever been in my whole life. And I started to realize that this is going to be part of my life now. And I was so sad. And my doorbell rang. And so I went to the door, and one of the women from our neighborhood was at the door, and she had this beautiful package. And she said, "Would you mind if I came in?" And I'm like, "No, come in, of course." And
Yeah.
she said, "I want you to reach in." And so I started to reach in, and all these women in our neighborhood had written me letters of what I could do and who I was. And
Aw.
it was like unbelievable. It was so beautiful. And then at the bottom, she said, "And we have one more thing for you." And so I looked at the bottom, and it was this beautiful white box with this gorgeous bow. And so I took it apart and I opened it up, and they had bought me my first iPad to start my business because they
Aw.
knew I didn't have any of this. And I remember that moment being like, I get still kind of teary when I talk about this. I was
Yeah.
so incredibly grateful, and so humbled in this moment. And knowing that, you know, building community in your life and having people around you is so important for when things don't go so well. And these women, I will always remember this. They thought of what I needed at the time. They thought of what would help me at the time, and they presented it. And I felt so much love for them. And, it was so many emotions that I had, but I just felt deep gratitude for people that come into your life when you're at the lowest points, that really help you see yourself differently and give you the tools that can start to change your life. And I'll never forget that. That's something that I carry with me all the way forward. And it's one of those gifts that I always want to remember as a ripple effect of when I go forward, when I see somebody going through things, what can I do? How can I help?
Well, that's beautiful. And, I think what you just said there, ripple effect, because what they gave to you and what you are now out in the world doing and helping others achieve is truly you taking that moment and giving back to others so that others can be empowered should they, when they find themselves or should they feel like they're facing that type of situation where they might just need community and support,
Yeah.
and, that's a beautiful story. What a
Uh,
beautiful thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very grateful for the women in my life, I'll tell you, very grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and people don't realize how strong community can be, like, how important it is this may sound silly, but even just knowing your neighbors, like,
Oh,
go knock on the door, go say hello, you live next to them, like,
yeah.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was very, very beautiful. And writing, in that book was also a personal development strategy as well, because you're moving through all your story and you're sharing things, and it's from a very vulnerable place. And
Yeah.
I remember just before it was going to be published, I had this feeling in my heart, like I'm sharing a lot of my life in
Yep.
there, and you start to question all the things, and I'm doing all the things. And what was so interesting about it is that I started to even find, like, through action, through taking action and doing the things, this is where you often find some of your stories that are really still holding on.
Mhm.
And it helped me move through that too. And so I was really grateful for that opportunity to be able to be part of that collaboration and be part of a whole bunch of women sharing tools, stories, so that people could relate. So
Yep.
just like you do on your podcast, where everybody can hear things and they can feel themselves in the story.
Mhm.
And when they can see themselves in the story and then see a different outcome, it's always giving somebody hope,
Yep.
possibility, right? All of
Yep.
those things. So
Yep. Absolutely, and people need to know that if they're going through it, somebody's probably been through it before, and, they've made it to the other side, and it may not feel like it in that messy middle, but when you come
mhm.
out, it's gonna be that much more rewarding for you of,
Yeah,
being able to get through those battles, so
absolutely. Absolutely.
well, I love it. Just one little just curious if you have any words of advice for someone who they're really just trying to figure it out. Like, what are some words of advice that you would want our audience to know about?
Well, I think if you're at this place right now and you're just like, life is just not making sense, or, I'm just not in a place where I'm feeling fulfilled or I'm feeling stuck. One of the things is I always find is to start to write down what it is you are actually thinking. What is it that I'm going through? Like, just getting it out onto paper really starts to help
Mhm.
you start to understand. So that I was trained by a beautiful person named Bob Proctor in his company. And he was kind of the grandfather of personal development, but he used to always say, many times it's stuck in here. And he said, when you start to write it down here on a piece of paper, you start to see a new perspective. You start to see things. You start to realize what you've been thinking. Um, but I think that's one place, is to start to, like, just write out your thoughts, what's happening here, but also to know that wherever you are right now, this is not where you're going to be forever. This is a moment in time, that there are people. I really highly recommend reaching out to people to ask for help
Yeah.
to move through this, because I know so many women that I have worked with before, one of the hardest parts for them is to actually ask for help or to put themselves out there, because they're used to being the ones who are capable. They're used to being the ones who can do the things. And so it almost feels like an identity break to ask for help. Like, it feels like I'm going into shame to ask for help, but we all need help at certain times in our life. And wouldn't it be better, even if it's from a fact of not even needing help, but how could I make my life better?
Mhm.
Not from a place of that I haven't done enough, but how could I just make it better?
Yep.
I want to grow from that expansion place, from that place of how can I be empowered? How can I change my life? And so when it comes from that perspective, not from I haven't done enough, but how can I change it so that I can be more of me? It's a different way of looking at it, and then it's easier to sometimes reach out and say, "Can you just help me? I just wanna be more me. I just wanna, like, I
Yep.
wanna live. I wanna live all into me." And isn't that one of the bravest actions anybody could take, is saying, "I wanna be more of me." And
Yep.
so I that's where I would suggest is, the journaling, and somebody that you love and feel safe to discuss it with, bring it up, and try to let it not stay inside of you.
Yep. Yeah, I always say that asking for help shows that you are, one of the strongest people that's out on the universe, because there's such a stigmatism for saying, "I need help," and that
Ah,
could be anything. That could be something small to something that just is very impactful to somebody, but being able to say, "I'm raising my hand, I need help," that is such a display of strength that I
yeah.
wish people would do it more, you know?
I agree with you 100%. It is a huge, huge, action of strength,
Yep,
and I think, many times I think in life we've been praised for being the strong one, praised for getting through things, feeling like that's where we got sometimes even our love was being the strong one, right? And
yep,
so then we feel like when we have to ask for help, then we are no longer that person. And that is not true. It's actually even one more step of being that strong one. And so I agree with you so deeply on that.
yep, absolutely, and the other thing that you mentioned is, reaching out. I I think that right now we're afforded the fact that we have social platforms where we see people doing amazing things in the world. And you know what? They didn't start off doing these amazing things. They had to build themselves to get there. I say reach out. If anybody reaches out to me, I get on the phone. If it's 5 minutes, 50 minutes, it doesn't matter. Um, if I'm doing something that they want to know how I how I got there, yes, let's talk about it. And, so I feel like you go find somebody who's doing things that you also want to do and ask them how they got there. Like, you know,
Yeah.
a a lot of times those conversations leave me more fulfilled than probably the other person. Cause I'm like,
Ah,
you help somebody and that feels
yeah.
great.
Yeah, Emily, I love that, and I love that that is part of what you value, and I do too. I
Yeah.
think, conversation is so important, and being able to, and I'm exact same. So if anybody's, like, watching this too, that they just wanna reach out, I'm the exact same, and I offer calls for that purpose alone because there is a time where we just need to see ourselves differently, and we just need a little bit of help seeing it, and once
Yeah.
we do, it can change everything, and I agree with you 100%. It fills my heart just
Yeah.
as much too as that's if this is what we love to do and help people, this is like these are the people you wanna reach out because it could be life-changing, absolutely life-changing to just see your life a little bit differently and be able to move forward.
Yeah. Absolutely. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I could talk to you all day. That's
Thank you.
oh my gosh. What is one thing that we haven't talked about that you wanna make sure that, the audience just knows about yourself and the work that you're doing?
I think I just want to really emphasize that, when we do understand ourselves deeply, when we start to learn to understand us, like date ourselves for a while and really figure out who we are, that the ripple effect of that, what we were just talking about, changes everything. Your relationships change, your job changes, your health changes, all of the things, because when you start to understand you and how you operate and what you've done for a long time, and then you start to really deep dive into what you would love and where you want to go, you actually start to create momentum in your life. You live intentionally instead of living unconsciously. You start getting out of autopilot and you start being the leader of your life. And isn't that like one of the most important things is to lead your life, to lead where you want to go. And so I think what I always emphasize is I think your investment in yourself is probably one of the most important investments you will ever make in your lifetime. Because once you understand you, you not only understand you, but you understand others. You understand life differently and you move differently and you live differently and you live fully. And isn't that what we're here to do, is to live fully as you? So that is what I would suggest to anyone today, is that to start looking at you as a beautiful investment, not just others, but
Oh,
yourself.
that is amazing, and I wanna tack one thing onto the end of that. I mean, you said it absolutely beautifully. I mean, so well worded. But I also want to add it doesn't matter what age you're at to live your life fully and take lead. It doesn't matter if you're 17 or you're 70. If you are searching for that something and there's still something you want to go do, please don't let age be something that stops you from working with someone like yourself, Nicole, to say, this is what's going to help me live my life fully. Again, it doesn't matter the age. There's some amazing people who did things after the age of 50, 60, 70, 80.
Mhm.
They're still out there doing it. So don't let age be a discriminator for yourself.
I 100% agree so
Mhm.
much, and actually, I just if I can tag on to that, I
Yeah.
one of my last clients actually was close to 70 years old, and the results this client got were just so beautiful. They started and this was actually one of my male clients, and what was so amazing was he was very successful in his life, but
Mhm.
he wanted to build a deeper relationship with himself and his partner at the time, and he just wanted to really live so intentionally with his time and I will just like I the work he put in and what he's living now
Mhm.
is the most beautiful example of that it is never ever too late to live into all your things because every moment counts.
Yep.
Every like today is the new day, right? For you can create anything you would love. And so I love that you brought age in because we can use that almost as a story of, this is not we can't do this.
Yep.
But if we can get rid of that story and be like, we whatever we decide is possible.
Yep.
But we have to decide. We have to decide. And that's one of the biggest things. Decide that you matter today, no matter what age you are, whatever stage you're at. Just decide that you matter because you absolutely do. And there's time for everything. There's time for it all.
Ah, lovely. Like I said, I could sit here and talk all day. I love the topic. I love the work that you're doing. I really appreciate you being here today. This has just been such a lovely conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. Thank you for what you are doing in the world and this beautiful podcast. And I love the title, Powered by Authenticity, because isn't that what we would all love to live into is our authentic selves. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And I know it had been a while since we set this up. I hope you'll come back.
I would love to come back. I would come
Awesome.
back anytime. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. We'd love to have you back. And
Thank you.
Nicole, I want to thank, we have a community art center, which is where our podcast studio is. So in the back, you got a little bit of a mural
I
going on
see
here.
that. I can see
So a big shout out to Go Art. They
it.
helped to fund us in the use of their podcast room through a grant that
Mhm.
we've been provided the ability to use. So we're very grateful for that. And thank you, producer Ken. He's been, checking in here a little bit on the notes. So thanks for setting me up for success before giving me the
Yeah.
reins of my own today. I appreciate you as always. And Nicole, just thank you for joining me on this wonderful conversation. It's just been lovely to have you.
Thank you, Emily. So great to be here.
I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.